Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. It is nighttime. Today's video, let's go shot for shot upper and lower transfers. I'm gonna cut the upper transfers on video and show you guys how I do that. And then I'll do a lower transfer and we'll line it all up. Stay tuned. I hope this helps you guys with your porting. Let's get right to the bench. Okay, we're back at the bench. I've pretty much centered this piston so you guys can see. Okay, we've flowed the piston now. We got all kinds of room for air to pass through. But if you look, there's two problems with a lot of these older cylinders. And to my beliefs, again, I build saws the way I think they should be done. But lower transfers are really small and the upper transfers are really small. If you look, okay, when this piston moves higher up in the stroke, okay, the sides of the cylinder actually block the windows. There, you guys can see by my thumb there. Okay, and that air just hits and it'll cause it to swirl. Does it work? Yep. Can we make it better? Yes, we can. So if you have a used cylinder like this, you can see, I don't want to go past where the skirts sit. You can see the shiny parts on the cylinder there. Okay, and you can see right here where it's rougher. Okay, you can see where the piston has been touching all these years. Okay, and it makes you a nice line. Now, this piston is different than the one that's in here. That was in here. There's the old piston. Okay, so I want to grind these transfers a little bit wider and get them flowing. But before I do that, I think I'm going to put my right angle tool on and we're going to hit these upper transfers. Okay, and get them to flow a little bit better. Now, the first thing I'm going to do, I'm not even going to use a timing wheel. Okay, I'm going to set this ring up right here, like so. Okay, I'm going to take a piston. Okay, and I'm going to keep pushing it down into there. We want to give ourselves just a little line. See, so now that ring is flush with both transfers. You can see they open at the same time. Okay, what I want to do is I want to give myself a nice line. I'll just tap it down with the piston where I can raise these transfers up. You can see right there. Now there's a ledge. There you go, that side and this side. I want to give myself a line that I can work to. And the way I'll do that is I'll take a marker. Okay, any marker. Take this marker and I'm going to go around. Okay, and I'm going to make myself two lines that I can work off of. Okay, now I'm just going to let that dry and that'll give me a reference point that I can grind to with my right angle tool. And then after we're done, once we put the saw back together, I can literally time it and then I'll set my exhaust accordingly. Okay, I'm setting this one by blowdown, not by exhaust roof. A lot of people, and even when I started, I was so hyper focused on exhaust roof that, you know, blowdown is just as important. And so I'm gonna spend some time in here and work these with my right angle tool, and we'll get the transfers flowing the way I think they should flow. Okay, let this dry. I'll take this out, set myself up, and we'll get in there and start grinding. Okay, now that it's dried, you guys can see I have a pretty sharp line that I can work to, and that'll keep me from getting into trouble. And then I can make my transfers both open at the same place. Now, don't forget, I want to chamfer these too, and that's going to affect it. So I don't really have to chamfer these, but if I make them any wider, the ring may go in and out of there, and I may hang a ring. So I'll probably put a small chamfer on these once I'm done grinding them. Okay, I'm going to get all set up here. I have this tool in here. We're going to start with that, and I'll go in and just start working this upper transfer. Okay, I got you guys kind of off to the side here. I'm just putting some lubricant. Now, I'm going to go in here with my right angle tool, and I'm going to just start grinding and see how this thing wants to grind. Just trying to catch the edge. You gotta get rid of the plating first. Once I grind the plating away, it'll be a lot easier. Okay, I'm just showing you guys. See that? We're just getting rid of the plating. Okay, upper transfers, slow and steady wins the race. And if you've never done this before, when you first start doing this, you'll definitely have more respect for the guys you watch porting on the internet, because this is a tough thing to learn. You will wreck cylinders. Okay, now these, I want to pitch them up slightly, and I'm just trying to grind on my line. You can see it's very fine in there, and it's definitely a learned thing. Okay, yeah. Okay, see, now that I've gone through the plating, it's way easier to grind. Okay, I'm just going to keep hitting this, and then we'll compare it to the other side, and then I'll do the other side. I'll hit you guys back up when I have a little bit more work done. Okay, so here's the upper transfer. I just got to blend this little section. You guys see that? Okay, I'll do that right on video. Okay, just go in at an angle and let her buck. Okay, you guys see, I've just blended that out. They are tilted slightly up. They open back to front. That's how I like to do mine. Again, there's my transfer, and there's the stock one. Okay, stock, my transfer, quite a bit bigger, and they're like this stock. I just pitch them up a little bit and carry that plane right to the corner. Okay, I don't know if you guys can see, but I've gone in there as far as I can with this tool. Upper transfers take a little while because I change many different tools to do these. But yeah, you go in here, okay, as deep as you can, and just okay, and you cut as far to the back as you can. I can reach all the way with this. Yeah, I'm just hitting the one corner. Okay, I don't know if you guys see. So that's actually the corner. You can see right there the line. Okay, that's one plane going all the way up. No bumps. No nothing to slow it down. Okay, now we'll go in. This is the fun part. I got to make the match. Okay, and that's where the line comes in. I'll do the other side and I'll start grinding it, and they should match. Okay, here's our upper transfers. Gotta shape this corner just a hair. You guys see they're quite a bit bigger than stock. They're still on the small side, but we have to work with what the cylinder gives us. And again, always check with your ring. This is the key. Make sure they open at the same point. Sometimes stock, they don't open at the same point. So, tap, tap. Okay, that's about exactly where it opens. Notice it opens. It opens at the front here. Okay, but it tapers to the back. And we go on this side. So I got to take just a little bit out of this front corner here. Okay, so we'll rip this ring out. Grab my porting tool. Here, and we'll just do it right here in real time. Okay, so we got to put this front corner a little bit higher. Helps to have a firm grip right here, because if I slip, I'll ruin this cylinder. That's probably pretty close. Just blow it out with my blowgun. Okay. Again, take your time doing this. And like I said, having a strong grip really helps. Being a sheet metal worker all those years, I didn't realize, a couple buddies mentioned it to me, other guys I know that port, that having such strong hands really can really help with porting, because I can just grab it and make it do what I want it to do, you know what I mean, and hold it there. Okay, tap, tap, tap. And there you go, just like that. They open in the same place. Okay, open, open. So that's pretty much the ins and outs of upper transfers. Okay, make them flow. You can run water through them if you want. If you run water through them, you can see, make sure they both hit at the same point over the intake. Okay, but that's our upper transfers. Now let's do lower transfers. Now that our upper transfers are done, here's our lower transfers. Now, if you're going ragged edge of sanity and you want like every millimeter of lower transfer that you can get, well, assemble the saw, put your piston down and figure out a way to mark it, or mark your piston at top dead center and put it in, mark your piston at top dead center through the exhaust port and then line that back up. I'm going to eyeball this. I'm not going to go like super crazy on the transfers for width. Basically the idea is you don't, or at least I don't. Again, there's other ways to port. I just show you guys what I do, give you some ideas. I know this stuff's hard to start on your own, so you don't want your piston skirt going past the edge of the transfer. I like my piston skirts fully supported. Okay, so if you go past with the transfer, you could start rubbing your skirts on the side, and you know, you can end up doing a little bit of harm. So if you look at this right here, I got my piston in there. It's centered. It's centered as I'm going to get it. Okay. You can also see, if you're using the same piston, you can also see the shiny spots here and here. Okay. Shiny and not shiny. That's because the pistons never touch there. Now this is a different piston and my skirts are a little bit wider. Okay, now when we're done porting this thing, I'm going to throw, I think I got a big hone here, one of these. Yeah, okay, I got a big hone that we can throw in this cylinder and hone this thing when we're done. But all I'm basically going to do, I'm going to take a marker, any Sharpie that you have, and I'm just going to make myself some reference points. Okay, I'm going to get right into the corner. I'm just going to mark where that piston is, and just remember that my marks are the outside, okay? The outside of this mark is where my piston's at. Okay, and I'm just going to go in this corner. Okay, this will give me a rough guesstimate of where I can cut to, okay, of where we can widen our sides. Then just take a straight edge, whatever you want to use. You can use a ruler, you can use a piece of plastic, you can use a whatever, okay, a piece of cardboard. Put it in there, try and make it fairly straight, and then just trace a line up on both sides. I'm going to do that off camera, and I'll show you guys. Okay, not the best line, but that's how far over I can grind. Now, in this case, it's pretty much right to the shiny spot, so I'm going to use that as my guide. I'm going to sneak up to it, and okay, so what I'm going to do here, I'm going to widen the transfers so that our windows feed. If you look, there's like a 1/4 inch on either side that are blocked, okay? It's a common problem on these. Okay, there's the transfer. You can see that line. Look how far it is. See if we can get it to focus. Okay, so that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to widen the transfers. I'm not going to cut them to the bottom. Doing something a little bit different on this saw because I want to see what it does. And I can always cut them bigger after. Okay, so I'm going to use my straight Fordham handpiece. Look at this thing. It's got a lot of miles on it. Okay, with an egg-shaped burr. People ask, how do I cut my transfers so square? I drag one of these down. Okay, something that's straight, a straight bit, and I drag it down. And I just keep pulling against that line, and that's how I cut. But remember, on this side, it's going to want to cut up and go over. So just be aware of that. One side where it's turning, right? This way, it's going to want to grind out of, because my Fordham spins clockwise, right? So that's where you damage cylinders. Okay, it's always on the side that wants to grab and come out. And that's where you'll chip plating and all that kind of stuff. Okay, and on the other side, it wants to pull in. So this is the side that'll be nice. If you're going to chip it, it'll be on this side. Okay, I'm going to fire up the Fordham, and I'll show you guys one side, and you can compare it to the stock small transfer. Saw runs good with little transfers, but we can make them better, can't we? Okay, I only did one transfer because I want you guys to see. Okay, there's my lower transfer. I didn't go super deep this time. With this being machined, and I didn't want to go too low because sometimes you start getting thin here and you end up grinding through. Then you got to cut it off, and I didn't really want to do that this time. I want to keep, I want to try a lower intake, like 152, 154, which this saw stock is at 152. I want to try a lower intake, smaller transfer. Now, a lot of people would say, geez, those transfers are massive. Yeah, they are. Not for me, they're not. You guys have seen, I've done some giant transfers on this channel. Couple things to note. Just my opinion. Often people will argue about this, but I like it really. I like to grind right there. Okay, you guys see how rough it is on the corner there? If you read about laminar flow, often if you want something to get around the corner a little bit faster, if you break the surface, it will flow better. I've done lots of reading about that over the years. My day job, friends, I design heating systems, and that's part of my job, but I design heating systems and move air for a living. Lots of math and science involved. I try to not use that here. I do occasionally use some math, but I just take what I know in the last, I've been moving air for 21 years now, friends, and I just take what I've learned and apply it. Okay, other thing is, cut that bridge narrower, okay? Notice I've thinned that quite a bit, and it's tapered. It's really big at the bottom, and it tapers to create pressure. Okay, I've really hogged that out. Now you can go into this corner and cut this deeper. Remember though, pay attention to where your transfers are. These transfers are not very big for the size of saw. I want to get a little more RPM or a lot more RPM out of this saw. One way to do that is to make sure it gets enough fuel and air on the top end, let it climb. So part of that is making big transfers. This all has to do with case capacity. I am adding lower case capacity to this saw. But remember, I really dropped the cylinder quite a bit. And, okay, I've really dropped the cylinder, so I lowered the case capacity. And then by grinding the piston slightly bigger, that increases case capacity. Everything below the transfers, the upper transfers, is case capacity. Okay, and then I've also increased the size of my transfers. There's the stock one, in case you forgot. Stock, Tinmanized. Okay, you look in any high-performance cylinder ever made, two-stroke, and you will not see little transfers like that. You look at a snowmobile cylinder like this. I have one, I'll show you. This is a 500cc snowmobile cylinder. It's got boost ports. Look at the size of the transfers. Giant. Okay, and yeah, it's bigger than this, but it's not that much bigger. Look at the transfer area. Look how big the upper transfers are, and look how big the lower transfers are. Like, I could stick my finger in there. You could grind in there for days. But really, there wouldn't be a lot of porting to do in this cylinder because those transfers are just massive. So, again, and this isn't even a crazy fast sled. The faster ones, you should see what's going on in there. But then, again, some people would say, well, what about power valves and all that on the exhaust? This is not a power valve sled. This is an air-cooled. This is an air-cooled expansion chamber sled, and it's pretty cool. So keep in mind, some of the ideas I have, sometimes they don't work, but I look at other forms of two-strokes. Okay, and the final thing is, let's fit our piston. I'm just going to wipe it off here. Wipe the piston off. I did have to chamfer this upper edge because I couldn't get the piston in when I was checking it out. So I will chamfer this. Actually, what can we put in there to keep the piston up high? Here, I do this often. Put a cap in there. Okay, let's put a cap in there and center it. Okay, now look. Now notice I didn't go right to the edge. If you are so inclined, go right to the edge. But I want to leave myself just a little bit of wiggle room. That piston is not centered. There, that would be it. You can see we're a 1/16 of an inch on this side. And make sure this piston's the right way. Yeah. Okay, we're about a 1/16 of an inch on this side. Turn that a little bit. Maybe a little bit more. Where's center here? Again, that's why I didn't go too far, because I just wanted to get it close enough. You see there's a small ledge there. Same with that side. So, there's an 1/8 to a 1/16 of an inch. I want full bearing. This is a big saw. Big saws can eat parts quickly, especially when you port them. You want to give enough bearing on the piston. Okay, and again, there's stock. Okay, so when the piston's coming down and it's starting to compress the crankcase, which is, let's see, is the intake port closed? Well, the intake port's closed, so this would represent when it's compressing the crankcase. Okay, remember, that air has to flow through there, and you see where those windows are. And I've made those windows bigger, okay? But they're not that much bigger. In fact, let's put the stock piston in. That has no work done to it. This one right here. This is actually a stock. This is a stock 395 piston. It's pretty much identical to what we're working with. I may actually grind on this one and fit it for the final assembly, but okay, that's what we're dealing with. So there's quite a bit of gap. Tell me when the air hits there, it's not going to create turbulence. Okay, whereas now you can really see it. Okay. And again, centered is about there. There, now you can see the gap. Okay, you can go further if you want to, but that's just how I'm going to play this one. I'm not in a ragged edge of sanity kind of mood with this saw because this saw is already going to be nuts. This will be more saw than I ever need. This will be too much saw for 99% of my cutting needs, and that's what I like. I'm trying to build a few more saws for buck and stock. I'll probably bring this one. I'd like you guys to see different saws. I'll probably bring this, the 394 we built. Probably one of my famous 266s, maybe that really hot Johnson thread. And we may have one more saw in the works, but I'll wait to see if it gets here in time. Shipping's been kind of wonky. If it gets here in time, I'll really try and hammer out that saw. But yeah, anyhow, friends, there you go. Lower transfers and upper transfers. Make them flow air. If they flow air, okay, it's like a small block Chevy or whatever. Maybe it's a turbo, Toyota. Whatever you're into, any internal combustion engine that you start feeding it more air and more fuel makes more power. It's the same thing with a two-stroke. The difference is you're not putting a camshaft or a turbo on it. Okay, so that's what we do here. Okay, guys, we're really moving on this project. I hope that helps you guys see kind of what I do. Total time on that, just to give you an idea, was about 2 hours. So slow and steady with the transfers. If you're going to ruin a cylinder, it's generally cutting the transfers. At least for me it is. Anyhow, just trying to get a few more saws done that I can bring to buck and stock. And I know we got lots of time, but I know how it works. It's going to creep up on us. And just trying to get things done. Anyhow, thanks for hanging out in the saw shop. Take her easy.